I didn't argue when my daughter Emily took my car keys. I didn't protest when she moved my bedroom to the converted garage, claiming the upstairs was too dangerous for a man my age. I didn't even flinch when her husband Jason changed the locks and told me it was for my own safety. I smiled. I nodded. I waited. Because 3 days earlier, I'd received a certified letter that they knew nothing about. A letter that would change everything. But first, I had to survive living in my daughter's house without them discovering what I knew. My name is Robert Mitchell. Most people call me Bob. I'm 67 years old, and until 6 months ago, I lived alone in the house where my late wife Sarah and I raised our 2 children. Sarah passed 4 years ago from cancer, and I'd been managing just fine on my own. I had my garden, my woodworking shop in the garage, my Tuesday poker games with the guys from the Veterans Hall. Then Emily started calling more often. At first, it seemed sweet, checking in on her old dad, asking if I was eating right, taking my medications, keeping the house clean. I appreciated the concern. I really did. But the questions got more pointed. Was I forgetting things? Getting confused? She'd bring up times I supposedly missed appointments or repeated stories, though I had no memory of these incidents. When I mentioned this to my son David, who lives in Seattle, he seemed surprised. He hadn't noticed anything wrong during our weekly video calls. The pressure intensified after I had a minor fall in my garage. Just caught my foot on a power cord, bruised my hip. Nothing serious. But Emily was at my door within an hour, though I never called her. Turns out, she'd installed cameras in my house during her last visit, just to check on you, Dad. That was the beginning of the end of my independence. She showed up with Jason and a social worker they'd hired privately. They had documents, medical assessments I'd supposedly failed, a doctor's letter suggesting I needed supervised care. The social worker, a stern woman named Patricia, walked through my house with a clipboard, pointing out hazards everywhere. The stairs, the stove, the tools in my workshop. I tried to fight it. I really did. I called David, but Emily had gotten to him first, with her carefully constructed narrative of my declining health. She'd shown him edited camera footage of me wandering confused through the house at night. What she didn't show was that I'd been looking for my reading glasses, which I later found exactly where I'd left them. My friends from the Veterans Hall tried to visit, but Emily turned them away. Dad's resting. Dad's not feeling well. Dad's confused and gets agitated with too many visitors. Eventually, they stopped coming. The financial power of attorney was the final piece. Emily presented it to me on a Tuesday afternoon, with Jason standing behind her and Patricia, the social worker, nodding encouragingly. They needed it to help manage your affairs, Dad. To pay your bills, handle the house sale, make sure you're taken care of. I signed it. What choice did I have? I was tired, confused by their constant narrative that I was losing my mind, starting to doubt my own memory. That's when I moved into their house, into the converted garage that still smelled of paint and had no real insulation. My furniture was sold, my tools donated, my wife's garden plowed under by the new owners of my house. The house that had been in my family for 42 years sold for $340,000, all of which went into an account I no longer had access to. The garage room had a twin bed, a small dresser, and a television that only worked when Jason felt like paying the cable bill. The door locked from the outside, they said, because I might wander at night. I had to knock to use the bathroom. My meals were brought to me on a schedule. My phone was taken because I kept calling people and worrying them with confused stories. I thought I'd lost everything. I thought this was how I'd spend whatever years I had left. Then the letter came. It was a Thursday morning. The mail carrier was a guy named Marcus, who'd been on this route for years. He knew me from my old neighborhood. When he saw the certified letter addressed to Robert Mitchell from Hendricks and Associates, attorneys at law, he did something unusual. Instead of leaving the notice card for Emily to sign, he knocked on the garage window where I was sitting. "Mr. Mitchell," he called quietly. "I got something here that looks important. I remember you from Oakwood Drive. You always tipped at Christmas." I went to the window. He slid the letter through the gap at the bottom. "I don't know your situation," Marcus whispered, "but my grandmother went through something similar with my uncle. If you need help, there's a legal aid hotline. He pressed a business card against the glass. That's my cousin. She's a paralegal. Free consultation. Then he was gone. I opened the letter with shaking hands. It was from a law firm representing the estate of my grandmother's sister, Aunt Clara. She died 18 months ago at 96. I'd gone to the funeral, a small affair in rural Virginia where she'd lived her whole life. Clara never married, never had children, lived on a small farm that had been in our family since the 1800s. The letter explained that Clara's estate had finally cleared probate. As her closest living blood relative, I was inheriting her property. 47 acres in Fairfax County, Virginia. I remembered that land. Visited it as a kid. It was rural then, practically wilderness. The letter included a recent tax assessment, $52,000. My heart sank. $52,000. Emily and Jason had access to all my accounts through the power of attorney. Even if I claimed this inheritance, they'd take it, use it to pay for my care while I stayed locked in this garage. But I kept reading. There was a second page. A handwritten note from the attorney, James Hendricks. Mr. Mitchell, I tried calling your phone number on file, but it's been disconnected. I felt compelled to write you directly. You should know that your aunt's property is now in the direct path of a major development project. The Fairfax County Board has approved rezoning for a massive mixed-use development. Several developers are interested in your parcel. I've received preliminary offers ranging from $8 million to $12 million. However, one developer, Meridian Properties, has indicated they'd go as high as $18 million to secure the complete block, which requires your parcel. I need you to contact me immediately. Time is of the essence. This opportunity won't last. I've taken the liberty of not recording this inheritance in public records yet, as I couldn't verify your current contact information. Please, call me at your earliest convenience. I read it 3 times, then 4, $18 million. But Emily had power of attorney. The moment I contacted this lawyer, the moment this became official, she'd know. She'd control it all. I'd never see a penny. I'd spend the rest of my days in this garage, while they bought vacation homes and luxury cars with money from my family's land. I needed a plan. I needed help. And I needed to do all of it without them finding out. I looked at the business card Marcus had left. Jennifer Chen, paralegal. I had no phone, no internet access, no way to contact anyone. But I had something Emily didn't know about, something I'd kept hidden. When Sarah was sick, toward the end, she made me promise to keep a small emergency fund that no one knew about. Things happen, Bob, she'd said. Banks fail. Accounts get frozen. Always have something they can't touch. I'd hidden $2,300 in cash inside a hardcover copy of Moby Dick that I'd carved out. It was in a box of my books in the garage. Books Emily thought were worthless enough to let me keep. I waited until night. Until I heard Jason and Emily go to bed upstairs. Then I retrieved the money in the book. The next morning, I faked sick. Complained about chest pains. Emily, terrified of the liability if I died in her house, called an ambulance. At the hospital, during the chaos of admission, I slipped $200 to an orderly named Kevin. I need you to make 2 phone calls for me, I whispered. Call this number. I handed him Jennifer Chen's card. Tell her Robert Mitchell needs an emergency consultation about elder financial abuse. Tell her I'll call back at exactly 2 p.m. from the hospital phone. Kevin looked at the $200, then at me. My grandmother's in a home, he said quietly. Her son took everything. I'll make your calls. At 2 p.m., while Emily was in the cafeteria, I called Jennifer Chen from the phone in my hospital room. She listened to my story without interrupting. Then she asked one question. Mr. Mitchell, when you signed that power of attorney, were you under duress? Did you understand what you were signing? I thought about the social worker, the doctor's letter I never saw a real doctor for, the edited camera footage, the isolation from my friends. I was coerced, I said. They made me think I was losing my mind. Then we have grounds to contest it, she said. But we need to move fast. Don't contact that inheritance lawyer yet. We need to establish your mental competency first and revoke the POA. I'm going to connect you with an attorney who handles these cases pro bono. His name is Thomas Wu. Over the next 2 days in the hospital, while Emily thought I was getting tests for my heart condition, I was meeting with Thomas Wu, a lawyer who specialized in elder abuse cases. He brought in a psychiatrist who evaluated me thoroughly. Cognitive tests, memory assessments, everything. I passed with flying colors. The doctor's official report stated I had no signs of dementia, cognitive impairment, or any condition that would prevent independent decision-making. Thomas Wu then filed an emergency motion to revoke the power of attorney based on coercion and undue influence. He requested a court hearing. When Emily found out, she was furious. She showed up at the hospital with Jason and their own lawyer, a slick guy named Randall who specialized in estate planning. "Dad, what are you doing?" Emily's voice was tight. "We're just trying to help you. You're not well." "I'm not confused," I said quietly. "I know exactly what's happening. You've isolated me, taken my home, locked me in a garage, and stolen my money. That ends now." Jason stepped forward. "You ungrateful old man. We gave you a place to live. We feed you. This is how you repay us?" Thomas Wu stepped between us. "This conversation is over. Mr. Mitchell is my client. Any further communication goes through me." The court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, the judge issued a temporary order freezing all my accounts that Emily had accessed. She couldn't touch a penny until the hearing resolved the power of attorney question. I was discharged from the hospital, but I didn't go back to Emily's house. Thomas Wu had connected me with a veterans support organization that provided temporary housing. I stayed in a small efficiency apartment, my first real freedom in 6 months. During those 2 weeks, I contacted James Hendricks, the inheritance lawyer. I explained my situation. He agreed to wait until after the court hearing to proceed with the inheritance paperwork. But he also gave me crucial information. Meridian Properties had increased their offer to $21 million, but they needed an answer within 30 days, or they'd pursue a different land assembly. The court hearing was on a Friday. Emily brought character witnesses, neighbors who said I seemed confused and forgetful. She brought the edited camera footage. She had her private social worker testify about the hazards in my home. But Thomas Wu was brilliant. He brought in my son David, who flew in from Seattle and testified that I'd never seemed confused during our weekly video calls. He brought the hospital psychiatrist with her evaluation. He brought Marcus, the mail carrier, who testified that Emily had deliberately intercepted my mail. Most damning, he brought in my friends from the Veterans Hall. They testified about how Emily had turned them away, prevented them from seeing me, and isolated me from my support system. The judge didn't take long to decide. "The power of attorney is revoked," she said. "Furthermore, I'm ordering a full accounting of all transactions made under that power of attorney. Miss Emily Carter, you are required to provide detailed records of every penny you spent from your father's accounts." Emily's face went white. Over the next week, Thomas Wu and a forensic accountant went through everything. The $340,000 from my house sale, my pension deposits, my savings. Emily and Jason had spent $178,000 in 6 months, a new car, renovations to their house, a vacation to Europe, designer clothes, all while I lived in their garage on a diet of sandwiches and canned soup. The judge ordered them to repay every cent. When they claimed they didn't have it, the judge placed a lien on their house. But I had bigger things to think about. I contacted James Hendricks and officially accepted the inheritance. We negotiated with Meridian Properties. They held firm at $21 million. But I had Thomas Wu review every word of the contract. On a Wednesday morning in November, 47 acres of Virginia farmland that my great-great-grandfather had cleared with his own hands sold for $21.3 million. After taxes, legal fees, and Thomas Wu's contingency fee, I netted $14.7 million. I sat in the lawyer's office, looking at the bank statement showing that number, and I thought about Sarah, about how she'd made me promise to keep that emergency fund. That hidden cash in the hollowed-out book had saved my life. Emily tried to reach out. Letters, emails, Showing up at my new apartment. She was sorry. She'd made mistakes. She was under financial stress. Jason had pressured her. She never meant to hurt me. I didn't respond. Thomas Wu handled all communication, but I did one thing that surprised everyone. I didn't cut her out of my will entirely. I set up a trust that would give her $50,000 when I died, administered by an independent trustee. Not enough to be life-changing, but enough to pay for my funeral and have something left over. Why? Thomas Wu asked. After everything she did? Because she's still my daughter, I said. And I'm not going to become the bitter old man she tried to make me into. But I'm also not going to be anyone's victim. The bulk of my estate went to different places. $2 million to the veterans organization that helped me when I had nowhere to go. $1 million to elder abuse prevention programs. $500,000 to Marcus's cousin Jennifer Chen to start a legal aid clinic specializing in elder rights. I bought a small house near David in Seattle. Nothing fancy, just 3 bedrooms, a workshop in the garage, and a garden where I planted Sarah's favorite roses. I reconnected with my friends from the Veterans Hall, started a new Tuesday poker game, though now I hosted it in Seattle with a different group of guys. I traveled, saw the Grand Canyon, which Sarah and I had always planned to visit, went to Ireland to trace her family roots, spent a month in New Zealand, because why not? But the best part was starting a foundation in Sarah's name, the Sarah Mitchell Fund for Elder Independence. We provide grants to seniors facing financial abuse, fund free legal clinics, and support legislation for stronger elder protection laws. I'm 70 now. 3 years since that certified letter changed my life. I still have $12 million, which is frankly more than I know what to do with at my age. David and his family visit every month. My grandchildren actually know me now, instead of the confused old man Emily had painted me as. Sometimes I think about those 6 months in Emily's garage. The fear, the humiliation, the loss of dignity, the feeling that I'd become invisible, a burden, someone whose life no longer mattered. And then I think about Marcus slipping that letter through the window, about Jennifer Chen taking my call, about Thomas Wu fighting for me pro bono until he knew I could pay, about Kevin, the orderly, making phone calls for $200 and a story about his grandmother. I didn't win because of money, though the money certainly helped. I won because people saw me, really saw me, not as a confused old man or a paycheck, but as a human being who deserved dignity and respect. That's the real inheritance Aunt Clara left me. Not the land or the money, but the reminder that I mattered, that my life wasn't over just because I was old, that I still had value, still had agency, still had the right to live on my own terms. Emily sent me a card on Father's Day last year. I didn't open it, but I didn't throw it away either. It sits in my desk drawer, a reminder that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, that I can choose mercy without choosing to be victimized again. I've learned that being gentle doesn't mean being weak. My revenge wasn't in destroying Emily's life. It was in reclaiming my own, in proving that aging doesn't equal incompetence, in using my resources to help others trapped in situations like mine. Every week, I get letters from people the Sarah Mitchell Fund has helped. A 73-year-old woman in Ohio who escaped her grandson's financial control. An 80-year-old man in Florida who fought off his daughter's attempt to declare him incompetent. A 65-year-old widow who discovered her power of attorney was being misused. These are my victories now. Each person we help is another life reclaimed, another elder who learned the same lesson I did. We are not invisible. We are not burdens. We are not finished. And no one, not even our own children, has the right to take that away from us. I'm sitting in my garden now, drinking coffee Sarah would have approved of, watching the morning light on the roses. I'm 70 years old, and I've never felt more alive. This is my gentle revenge. Living well, living freely, and making damn sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else if I can help it. That's the story I tell when people ask how a retired mechanic from Virginia ended up running a multi-million-dollar elder rights foundation. It's not a story about money. It's a story about dignity, about second chances, and about the power of one certified letter delivered by a mail carrier who gave a damn. And it's a reminder that it's never too late to take back your life. Never too late to matter. Never too late to fight back, even if you do it gently.